The big speculation that is out there when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs is whether or not Travis Kelce is going to return. All right, is Travis Kelce going to be back? Does he come back for another season, or is he going to walk away and call it a career following the loss in the Super Bowl? We've got the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, Brett Beach, who was at the Combine.
Brett
Beach. He was at the Combine in Indianapolis yesterday and spoke about his expectations for Kelce this upcoming year.
How we left at the end of the season is that he was fired up. He has one more year under contract, and I still think he has that fire and desire to play. And as far as I'm concerned, that there is no deadline. I think we left it as he'd be back, and we're excited to get him back.
So very confident that Travis Kelce's going to be back. I never bought for a second that he was actually going to retire. I don't.
I just think at this point, whatever you're getting from Travis Kelce is going to be considered a bonus to a brilliant, I would say, I don't know if it's first ballot. I would assume it would be. I don't know how that works with tight ends, but he's definitely had a Hall of Fame caliber career. And so I would, if I'm Veach and I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm really trying to figure out how do I recreate what we had our most success with and continue to have success with. You got to try to find someone who can be in the wings and develop into the next Travis Kelce. You got to figure out who could be that guy, and I believe they feel like they got that in Worthy when they drafted him. And, you get guys back, you get Rashee Rice back healthy for next season. You have some options there at the receiver's position, but you got to assume that they're trying to replace what they had with the cheetah. You lose Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce is getting older. It just seems to me if you were able to create that with those guys, not to say that they're not special guys, but let's be clear. I do believe it is the environment that they were in or have been in Kansas City that has ultimately been the reason why they had the type of, level of success. Like, listen, I know Tyreek Hill had great stats, in Miami, but Tyreek Hill has not been the same player in my estimation. His impact has not been the same. And maybe it's because we're looking at the team as a whole where they're underperforming, but Tyreek Hill isn't Tyreek Hill that was in Kansas City.
You don't think he's been better? I think
he's been. I mean, he's had better stats. I think he had a better season statistically speaking, but he's not the Tyreek Hill with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. And I think that when you look at what they've created signature-wise, the three of them together, I would be trying to figure out how do I recreate that before Patrick Mahomes gets too far into his career. So while I'm okay with keeping Travis Kelce, this is the point I'm making. While I'm okay with keeping Travis Kelce, it's not like it would be the first time they let a main piece of their offense go. It's not like it would be the first time they moved on from a main piece of their offense. And Tyreek Hill being the biggest example of that. So you got to figure out they have not been the same offense since he's gone. They have not. They have not been able to take off the top of a defense the way that they were able to take the defense, take it off when Tyreek Hill was there. You bring in Worthy, maybe he's the guy that can do it. They got to figure out how they can do that. They got to figure out how they can replace Travis Kelce as well. And I would assume that you got to be looking for a tight end at this point to go along with whoever it is you're going to decide or deem whoever steps up to be that next best guy for Patrick Mahomes as a receiver.
On his decision whether or not he wants to come back this next year, I think a lot of this has to do with how that Super Bowl looked, because that was way worse in my mind than the Super Bowl loss to Tampa Bay was. Because that looked like they were totally – the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, Mahomes was running for his life, and it just it looked bad early and just continued on that way. But it felt like, okay, well, there's some, we'll fix the offensive line. They did so. They went on a run afterwards. That Super Bowl against Philly, they looked totally outclassed. They looked like they were outworked. There's the video clip of Travis Kelce just kind of standing around. Somebody was making the point yesterday that he was dealing with a severe illness before the game. Take that for what you will.
That was some damning content, bro. He was just standing there.
Yeah, and I wonder.
You can't say that's an illness.
I wonder if part of it is
other than laziness.
If they had lost a close game to Philly, went into overtime, they lost a close game, but they played well enough. I could see Travis Kelce walking away and being like, you know what, left it all out on the field, is what it is. Got my 3 Super Bowls, I'm off and running. I think the way that looked, the way that he looked, the way that he played, I never for 1 second believed that he's not coming back. I think he wants to go out in a way that is more representative of what his career is, and that game didn't look good for anybody involved.
For the Eagles.
Oh, yeah, it's great for the Eagles. It was great. Yeah, please stand around and watch the play.
It looked good for the Eagles and their involvement.
I just can't imagine, as a guy with the career as decorated as his, that he would want that to be his lasting memory on a football field. That's a bad one.
But I just think that we're to the point now where that becomes more of a side story to it all. I think the main story to it is what does Kansas City do? Kansas City has to be preparing for life without Travis Kelce. And Kansas City has to be preparing for transitioning and figuring out what are you going to do to be impactful as an offense, even if Travis Kelce returns. It matters. It matters now to be prepared, because what happens when you're not prepared, you turn into the New England Patriots. You turn into the Pittsburgh Steelers. You turn into one of these teams that when they lose a main player, the Steelers have not been the same since they've lost Ben Roethlisberger. They just have not. The New England Patriots have not been the same since they lost Tom Brady. They just have not. And I'm talking about a quarterback, but ultimately speaking, if you lose guys to age or to free agency, whatever it may be, you lose Tyreek Hill. You got to figure out a way to replace that production. They have not. Travis Kelce is getting older. He's playing, but you're clearly seeing a guy that at times takes plays off, isn't as spry, isn't as healthy as he once was, and you're going to have to figure out how to replace that production. Because when you saw them go up against a team that was really, and granted, they had just won a Super Bowl the year before. They found a way to win a Super Bowl the year before, found a way to go to, the Super Bowl, the year before that, right?
Yeah.
They won it the year because they were going for a three-peat.
Yeah.
I mean, the bottom line is, for as questionable as knowing what they have to do for the receiver's position, for the tight end's position, Jonas, they've still found a way to have success. I just don't know how much longer you can find ways to have success, especially when you were exposed the way that they were in the Super Bowl. I think that that's the ultimate conclusion. The safest conclusion to come to is you can't continue on the way that you have, even though it was good enough to get you to the Super Bowl.
Boy, did they get their ass whooped. I was thinking about that earlier.
It wasn't competitive.
They got annihilated.
Yeah.
That's why I just, heartbreaker, totally understand. But I think, to your point, now you're starting to have bigger questions like, hey, man, what was that?
And there are teams that are gearing up to be able to play against not only the Chiefs. There are teams that are gearing up to be able to play against the Eagles.